All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving into a mystery, a real head scratcher, and it's the disappearance of Juan Pedro Martinez Gomez.
Ooh, this is a good one.
It is, right. So imagine this. Spain, 1986.
Okay.
10-year-old boy vanishes.
Vanishes.
Gone. Without a trace?
Oh, no.
Yeah. During a family road trip?
During,
And get this, the truck his parents were driving,
yeah.
it crashes. But there's no sign of Juan Pedro anywhere.
So where do we even begin with something like this?
Well, luckily we've got some breadcrumbs to follow, right? We're going to be using these excerpts from this document we found called Somosierra.pdf, and it's fascinating. Someone went deep, deep, deep into this whole mystery.
Oh, wow. Like a real deep dive.
Yeah, it's like someone's obsession.
I love those.
I know, right? Okay, so let's back up a little and set the scene. It's June 1986.
Okay.
We've got Juan Pedro, 10 years old. He's from Murcia, Spain, and he's on this road trip with his parents, Andrés and Carmen. Andrés is a truck driver. They're headed to Bilbao in their Volvo F12 truck.
Okay. Makes sense. Family road trip.
Right, but wait, there's more.
There's always more.
Oh, yeah, they're hauling 25,000 liters of sulfuric acid.
Whoa. Okay, that's a little intense for a family road trip, don't you think?
It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Sulfuric acid.
Mhm.
Not exactly what I'd pack for a vacation.
No. Okay, so they're heading to Bilbao. It's about a 900-kilometer drive.
That's a long one.
It is. And the route includes the Somosierra mountain pass,
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's pretty notorious, pretty tough, especially for a truck.
Yeah, especially with that cargo.
Right, exactly.
So I'm guessing that's where things went wrong.
You guessed it, that's where the truck crashes.
On the mountain pass?
Yep. And afterward, Juan Pedro. Nowhere to be found.
What? But his parents.
Tragically, they were killed in the crash. But no sign of the boy.
That's just, where could he have gone?
Like he just vanished.
Vanished. Into thin air?
Poof. Gone.
Okay, now I really want to hear what this document says.
Oh, it gets so interesting. So it starts going into the details of the crash, right? And the first thing they look at is the data from the truck's tachograph.
The tachograph.
Yeah.
For those of us who, don't spend our days trucking, what exactly is a tachograph?
Right. Well, basically, it's like a black box for trucks.
Okay, I get it.
It records everything, the speed, the distance, even when the driver's driving, when they're resting.
This is like a log of the whole trip.
Exactly.
Interesting. So what did it show for this trip?
Well, this is where things get a little strange. As the truck's going up the mountain, the tachograph shows all these short stops, like stopping and starting, stopping and starting.
The stopping and starting. Wow.
And we don't know. There's no explanation for it. And then, get this. After all that, it shows this sudden, super fast descent.
Sudden. How fast are we talking?
Over 120 kilometers per hour?
Whoa. Hold on. That's way too fast for a mountain pass. Especially with that cargo.
I know, right? It's crazy.
So what's the explanation? Traffic.
Yeah.
Mechanical problems.
That's the thing. It doesn't really fit with any of the usual explanations. It's almost like, I don't know, something was forcing the truck to stop and go, and then speed up like crazy.
Okay, no, this is getting creepy.
Right. And then, you can't help but wonder about the cargo, the sulfuric acid.
Oh, yeah. Was there any chance that Juan Pedro was,
dissolved by the acid?
Yeah.
That was definitely one of the early theories.
I mean, it makes sense given the situation. Scary, but it makes sense.
Right. But scientifically, it's impossible.
Really?
Yeah. The document actually goes into this. They cite all these experts, all this evidence, and they completely debunk it. Dissolving a body in acid, especially that fast, in those conditions, not going to happen.
Okay, so not the acid. That's something at least.
Right.
But then where is he? If he wasn't in the truck when it crashed, where did he go?
Well, that's where things get even weirder, because now we have to talk about the white van.
The white van. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So several witnesses at the crash site, they all describe seeing this white van near the truck. And here's the thing. They describe the people inside as having this, like, Nordic appearance.
Nordic. What does that even mean? Like Vikings?
Right. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, that's super vague.
And they were wearing white coats.
White coats, like doctors.
Exactly. It's all very, very suspicious.
Okay, this is definitely getting strange. So what happened with this van?
Well, one witness even said that a woman from the van, she actually came up to Andres, who was injured, remember?
Yeah.
And she introduced herself as a nurse, offered to help.
Oh, wow. Well, that's nice of her.
Yeah, you would think, right? But then the witness says the van just speeds off.
Just like that.
Yeah. Forces everyone to, like, jump out of the way.
That doesn't sound good. So, helpful nurse or not, something's definitely off here. What were they doing there in the first place?
I know, right? It's all very unsettling.
Okay, we've got a crash truck, missing kid, mysterious white van. This is like a bad movie.
It is, right.
So what happens next? How does Juan Pedro's uncle fit into all of this? He's the one who really digs into all of this.
He does. He basically becomes the investigator in this whole thing, determined to find out what happened to his nephew.
So like he didn't trust the official investigation very much.
No, not at all. And you can't really blame him, can you?
No, not with all these strange details. This is just the beginning, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, we're just getting started. Buckle up. So we left off with Juan Pedro's uncle kind of stepping up, becoming the investigator, right? Taking matters into his own hands, trying to find out what really happened to his nephew.
Yeah, and from what I'm seeing in this document, he seems pretty convinced that the official investigation wasn't, I don't know, thorough enough.
Maybe.
Yeah. He points out all these inconsistencies, all these loose ends, like things that just don't add up, you know?
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, right? What were the police really doing? Right, and we have to remember the context here. Spain in the 1980s, this was a time when drug trafficking was exploding all across Europe.
Oh, yeah, it was a wild time, a lot of shady stuff going down.
Exactly. And the document actually gets into some of the specifics about how these trafficking operations worked, the routes they used, all that.
It's like a whole other world, right? A secret world operating right under everyone's noses.
And it makes you wonder if maybe Juan Pedro's disappearance was somehow connected to all of that.
Oh, yeah, that's a big part of this whole thing. This theory that maybe, just maybe, Juan Pedro got caught up in some kind of drug deal gone wrong.
It's a dark thought, but it's hard to ignore given the circumstances.
I know. You've got this truck driver hauling dangerous chemicals. You've got the mysterious white van showing up at the crash site. You've got witnesses saying they saw someone taking something from the wreckage. It's all very, very suspicious.
And then there's Juan Pedro's uncle, right? He was absolutely convinced that there was something more going on than just a simple accident. He even started digging into Andrés, Juan Pedro's father, trying to figure out if maybe he was involved in some kind of drug smuggling operation.
Wow, seriously, did he find anything to back that up?
It's tough to say for sure. The document lays out all the evidence he gathered, his interviews with people, his own reconstruction of the journey. But there's also this emphasis on the fact that, officially, there was no record of Andrés being involved in anything criminal. His finances were clean, no unexplained income, nothing like that. So it's really hard to tell.
So if Andrés wasn't knowingly involved, maybe he was, I don't know, tricked into transporting something, like he didn't know what he was really carrying.
That's definitely a possibility. It would explain why someone might be waiting at the crash site to grab a package, right? The white van, the mystery surrounding what was taken from the wreckage. It all kind of fits.
But if that's the case, why take Juan Pedro? What's the point of involving a 10-year-old boy in all of this?
It's the biggest question in this whole case. Was he taken as some kind of insurance, to make sure Andrés didn't go to the police? Or was he just in the wrong place at the wrong time, a witness who needed to be silenced?
God, it's chilling to even think about it.
And then you have the fact that some of the witnesses who mentioned the white van, they ended up dying under mysterious circumstances not long after the accident.
Yeah, that's in the document too. It's scary stuff. Makes you wonder if someone is trying to cover their tracks.
It definitely adds another layer of unease to all of this.
And it makes you question the whole investigation, right? The document keeps coming back to this point about the police, how they didn't seem to really put much effort into finding the white van or tracking down the people inside.
Even though Juan Pedro's uncle kept pushing for it.
Yeah, he was adamant that they needed to find that van. He believed it held the key to solving the whole mystery.
And yet nothing. It's like they just dismissed it as a dead end.
I know. It's frustrating.
And then there's the whole thing with the package that was supposedly found in the truck a year later, the one that everyone thought was heroin. Remember that?
Yeah. That seemed like a big break at the time. Like maybe it would finally prove the drug trafficking theory.
But then it turns out it wasn't heroin at all. Just an old fireman's jacket wrapped around a blanket.
A fireman's jacket? What?
Apparently, Andrés was using it to try and patch a leak in the acid tank. Makeshift repair job gone wrong.
Oh, wow. So another dead end. But even if there were drugs involved, it still doesn't explain Juan Pedro's disappearance.
Nope. He wasn't in the truck when it crashed, so why take him? What was the motive?
Right. That's the million-dollar question. And sadly, this document doesn't give us a clear answer. But Juan Pedro's uncle, he had his own theories. Some pretty wild ones, actually.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
He claimed that he was getting phone calls demanding ransom for Juan Pedro's return. And he was convinced that some powerful criminal organization was trying to silence him, to stop him from uncovering the truth. Heavy stuff.
That's intense. Did the police look into those claims at all?
It doesn't seem like it. From what the document says, they basically wrote him off as a grieving relative, desperate, grasping at straws, didn't take him seriously at all.
Wow. That's heartbreaking.
It is, and it makes you wonder, what if they had listened? What if they had taken those claims seriously? Maybe things would have turned out differently.
It's hard not to think about that, right? But we also have to remember that we're dealing with a lot of unverified information here. Speculation, rumors, things like that. It's impossible to know for sure what really happened.
True, but one thing's for sure. This document paints a very dark picture. It makes you question everything about the official investigation, and it leaves you with this lingering feeling that maybe, just maybe, Juan Pedro's disappearance could have been prevented.
It's a heavy thought. A lot to unpack. Where do we even go from here?
We've gone through a lot with this case, the evidence, the theories, all that. But what really sticks with me is, well, the human element of it all. What happened to Juan Pedro's family after he disappeared?
Yeah. The document really drives home the impact this had on them, especially his uncle, Juan Garcia Legaz. He spent years of his life trying to find out what happened.
You can really feel that in the document, His determination, his frustration. He never gave up.
It's amazing, really. He faced so many obstacles, so many setbacks, but he just kept pushing, kept searching for answers. It's pretty inspiring in a way.
It is. But sadly, despite all his efforts, Juan Pedro was never found. And the document talks about the grief, the unanswered questions, how it just consumed the family. I can't imagine what they went through.
It's unimaginable.
Well,
to lose a child and then to have to live with that not knowing, that uncertainty, just awful.
And in Juan Pedro's case, it's even worse because there's no closure. Nobody was ever found. No definitive proof of what happened to him. It's like the possibility is always there, that he might still be out there somewhere.
It's a haunting thought.
It is. And we've talked about all the theories, right? The drug deal, the kidnapping, even something more sinister. But without concrete evidence, it's all just guesswork. And I'm sure those what-ifs, those possibilities, they still haunt his family today.
Yeah, I bet. And then you have the whole issue of the investigation itself. The document talks about how Juan Pedro's uncle felt like he was being ignored, dismissed, like the authorities weren't really taking his concerns seriously.
It's something you hear a lot with missing person cases, right? That the families feel like their loved ones are forgotten, that the investigation isn't a priority. It's a horrible feeling.
Absolutely. And you can see why Juan Pedro's uncle felt that way. The lack of progress, the way his evidence was handled, it all points to a sense that justice wasn't served. And it makes you wonder, could more have been done?
It's a question that's hard to answer, I think. But there's definitely a tragedy here that goes beyond the initial disappearance. It's that feeling of helplessness, of a system that failed to protect Juan Pedro and then failed to properly investigate what happened to him. It's tough.
It is. And it's a reminder that even with all our technology, all our advances, some mysteries just stay unsolved. Sometimes we just don't get the answers we're looking for. It's hard to accept.
It is, but that doesn't mean we should stop looking, right? Even now, decades later, there's always a chance that something new might come up, a new witness, a new piece of evidence, something.
Yeah, definitely. The document actually mentions that Juan Pedro's DNA, his parents' DNA too, it's not in any of the databases they use to identify remains. So if his remains were ever found, there's a chance they could be identified.
It's a long shot, but it's still something. And for his family, any chance of finding out what happened, of finally knowing the truth, it would be huge.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's really stayed with me after reading all of this. We went from what seemed like a straightforward accident to all these twists and turns, all these unanswered questions. It's a story about how fragile life can be, about the power of hope, and about never giving up on the search for truth, even when it feels impossible.
Well said. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a question. What's the part of this story that resonates with you the most? Is it the possibility of a crime, something terrible happening in the shadows? Is it the image of a young boy caught up in something he couldn't understand? Or is it the image of his uncle, refusing to let go, fighting for answers even when all hope seemed lost? Whatever it is, I think Juan Pedro's story reminds us that some mysteries, they endure. The secrets, they stay hidden, waiting to be discovered. And maybe, just maybe, someday those secrets will finally come to light.